Thank you everybody for joining Cafecito Chats. Thank you for coming back. Today we're going to talk about a really interesting topic is what do you do after the interview? Once you successfully go into the interview, you answer the questions, you prep for the questions, you sit and with your suit and tie, and you talk to the recruiter. You also talk to the hiring managers. You if it's a panel interview, you went through and you did the best that you could, right? So you finish that, and all of a sudden you shake their hand, you go off on your way, you go home, and you're thinking, what did I do? How did I do? What do I do now? That's the big question that we're going to answer. So that being said is, honestly, what do you do? One of the things that you should do is 24 hours after, send a thank you email to the recruiter. If you can, and this is where the smarts come in, right? Jot down the person you interviewed with, jot down their name, first name and last name, right? If it was a panel interview, jot down those individuals as well. If you don't have that information available, go ahead and grab their pertinent email from that email distribution meeting invite that you got. Go look at the CC, go look at whatever email information is there and figure out which name and email addresses are available to you. If for some reason they're not included or they're blind carbon copied, that means that you, as the recipient, can't see it. One of the things that I urge you to do is go ahead and write down their name on your folder, on your portfolio, on whatever piece of paper you have. Write down their name and go and do a little bit of investigation as to, can I connect with them on LinkedIn? Can I go ahead and figure out what the email address for whatever company you're targeting should be, right? For example, at Northrop Grumman is @ng.com. So now you have pretty much the whole email address for everybody else because we use our first name dot last name @ngc.com. So that's the format of the email address. So you can utilize that, and sometimes you will be successful and get that email across, and people will, believe it or not, be impressed that you figure out how to get their email address. And if you reach out to them and say, hey, thank you for this opportunity. When you say thank you, be specific about the position. Obviously say your name, the position, the requisition number. Also indicate in your email something specific that you talked or touched on with that particular individual during your conversation. If they touched on a specific project about the company, mention that in your email. Thank you for sharing about the XYZ project that you're doing or that the company's working on. Be specific in that regard so that they remember who you are and that they're like, okay, this individual really paid attention and this is something that they're interested in, right? Be cordial in that regard. So also another thing is reflect on your performance, reflect on the interview and what you answered and some of the questions that maybe you stumbled on or maybe that you weren't quite prepared for. Write them down and keep them in a folder or a notebook, notepad. So in future interview, possibly you might be ready for that particular question and you can put it in your toolbox, in your brain, and you can utilize it and you can pull on it next time, and you can definitely cater an answer in your mind as to, okay, this is what I should have said, this is how I answered, but really, what should I have done and how should I have answered? And then also, and I'll get to you, Mr. Mike Cruz, do a follow through. Follow through if there's additional information, different departments that they mentioned about the company. Follow through as to, oh, well, okay, they mentioned this, that they do this. I wasn't really aware of this particular department or this particular research that they're doing or this particular contract that's coming through. What and where are they really located? Is there anything that I may not be aware of about this company? Now, also, if they're a public company or if they're a private company, make sure that you know what they are, right? in preparation for maybe they're going to extend an offer. If you really want to pursue a job with them, if you want to accept, at least you know what you're getting yourself into. So those are the type of questions that we're going to dig in and answer as a group. I see Mr. Mike Cruz, you have your hand up, sir. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just a real quick question, a clarification. I haven't actually done an interview in a long time. What kind of equipment can you record or use your cell phone in any way to record the session or not, or is it considered a private exchange?
Okay, so if it's going to be a virtual conversation, a virtual meeting through Zoom, as you saw, Zoom right now, when I selected record, everybody that comes into the actual meeting gets notified this meeting is getting recorded, right? So there's no way of necessarily recording without being aware of. But however, there's applications within your phone or applications on your desktop that you can actually record to your local drive. And you could definitely record yourself, even using your cell phone when you're actually talking and going through that interview process on your desktop. You can actually record on your phone an audio version, and it's okay if you're going to use it for educational purposes on yourself and remind yourself of, okay, who and what did they say? What did they really talk about? You could do that. However, if you decide to go ahead and post it, that could be a double-edged sword, right? If you did not alert people or there was no awareness or agreement, they could come back and say, hey, you recorded without our approval, without our authorization. You're, infringing upon our freedom of speech per se, or protocols about the company. So be aware of that, right? If you're recording for your own personal use, you're more than welcome to do it. If you say up front, is it okay if I take notes in a recorded manner? They might say, you know what, we'd rather you not do it. So it's up to you to do it. If you go in person, depending on what type of employer they are, if they have security, sometimes they tell you, especially for DoD, to leave your recording devices, your cell phones, your cameras at the front desk with security. And they have a bin that you can actually drop your stuff in there, and security will give it back to you when you exit out and check out of that particular visit. So just be aware of that. Some other companies might say, yeah, it's okay, just don't pull it out if you don't have a need for taking pictures or video. We don't really approve of that. So those are the guidelines that I normally have seen. So just keep that in mind. And maybe I'm going to turn around and see if Lourdes, do you have any additional insight of whether now during interviews, if you're allowed to full on record using your cell phone, if it's in person or whether it's virtual, and then we'll hopefully get to Diego Martinez. Lourdes?
Hi everyone. I would personally say no, you probably shouldn't record, if anything, take something to make notes on, just like important stuff, because you probably have other questions to be focused on and whatnot. You can ask for maybe at the end of the interview, like some feedback, or maybe later on in the email ask like any constructive feedback regarding my interview. Like you can ask for that, but I don't think recording would be the way to go.
Thank you, Lourdes. Good insight. Diego Martinez, a question came up about whether you can or should be able to record the interview during the time that it's actually taking place, be it virtual or be it in person. Diego?
In my experience, I've never recorded an interview. I've never asked to record an interview. I mean, if so, no, I don't think you should. But I do like Lourdes' idea of like, yeah, just like take notes, because I mean that's in the virtual interviews that I've had. That's what I do. I kind of take notes. I write down the questions and then just do that. That's what I do.
Yeah, so once again, if you're actually going through the interview, you should have your resume ready, right? If whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, you should have your resume. You should have the requisition and job description of the skills and tasks in front of you, print it out. We can always have it on our electronic devices, cell phones, or even in our desktop or laptop. But at the end of the day, if you have it printed out, it's a lot easier to quickly glance at it, push it aside, and not necessarily have it interfere with your webcam, video. And also, if you're on site in front of the people, and if you pull that description of the job and you look at it and you say, hey, I noticed that the job description, and you reference it, it's going to create that impression of, oh, this person's really on top of it. They really want the job. Why? They went the extra mile to go ahead and print this out. And to me, if I see a candidate with an actual printed out copy, that means that they made the effort to go ahead and look at the job description, to actually print it out and bring it with them. You'll be surprised that a lot of people do not print out the job description anymore. They feel so comfortable, and just those little things that give you more of a sanity check against the candidate is if they went the extra mile to go ahead and hit that print button, get up and grab that paper and be able to carry with them, allows the interviewer to know that, okay, this individual really wants the job. They're really interested in it. They looked at it maybe more than once, and they really know what they're getting themselves into, versus you just hoping to hit the mark with this particular candidate and you don't have a real idea of what's really going on. So yes, I would say go ahead and print it out. And even if you print it out, you can flip that page over and you can take notes and get a pen, get a pencil, take a pen, take a pencil to your interview. Or if you're at home doing an online or a virtual interview, have a pen, have a pencil ready to jot down information, take notes on the back of that sheet of paper, carry a notepad, carry a notebook, so that way you're able to quickly reference some of that conversation, some of those quick bullet points, some of those names of those individuals that you interviewed, or some of that key information that you got. So that's the whole aspect, and that's what you should do. Write a thank you email and provide some of those key points that you wrote down or that you have recollection of, and be able to simply go ahead and reference in your email back to those individuals. I hope that answers the question. Let's see, Bon, how are you, sir? How's it going?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for joining us. So you've heard us talk about what we are, what we expect or we recommend you do after an interview. Is there any questions in regards to this particular email sending to the company 24 hours after your interview? Have you had an interview in the past? Do you have any questions, or is there any doubt that we can help you with as we carry on the conversation?
Yeah, I'd say I have two questions. First off, so if you end up sending a thank you email and you don't get a response, like what's a good ratio of like making sure they see it versus like trying not to be too annoying to the recruiters? And for my second question, it's like if you meet someone at like a career fair or like a site tour, would you follow the same steps as the interview email, or would you like do things a little bit differently for that situation?
Those are good questions. So you don't want to be a pest. That's what you're saying. How do I avoid being a pest if I want to send a thank you email, but all of a sudden, a week goes by and I don't get a response, right? Well, it's still fine. I would say 5 days, maybe a working week goes by, you did not get a response. You can follow up and say, following up on my previous email, just hit reply to your sent email. I want to say once again, thank you for the opportunity. And is there a possible status update that you can provide me? That goes to the panel or individuals that you interviewed with. And you also follow up to the human resource or HR or talent acquisition person and say after a week, 5 days, 5 to 7 days, my personal take is that that you can follow up and say, just following up, trying to figure out if there's a status update, or if you can give me a guideline of how long your decision process normally takes. That's after you sent the thank you email. That should be 5 to 7 days after you sent that thank you email. And that way you're back on top of that email chain, and you can expect a response back if they're going to respond back or not. That's my personal take. We're going to shoot it back over to Lourdes to see if she has a different take, and then we'll go to Diego and Paul Montoya. Lourdes?
I would say when you send a thank you note, they'll probably read it, and honestly, they might be a little too busy to reply. But the fact that, just say, like, I did it with the best intentions from my side. Um, for a recruiter, I would definitely, like, maybe if you're interested in a couple of different jobs and you haven't applied, I would personally apply and then email the recruiter to say, hey, just letting you know, I did apply to these 2 jobs, and like give them the title, the number, whatever reference they can be, and just thank them for their time. That's how I would go about it.
Thank you, Lourdes. Diego, any additional insight or difference of approach?
For timeline, I would say probably said I've heard like wait, probably 3 weeks to a month after. If you or actually no, more like 3.5 weeks actually, if you don't hear anything back. But like Lourdes said, they might be too busy to reply. They'll see it, but they just probably won't reply. But yeah, and then same thing, same policy when it comes to in-person events and meeting recruiters in person.
Thank you, Diego. Great insight, great perspective. Pa Montoya, question is, how soon after I send the thank you email should I follow up if I don't get a response a couple of days later?
Yeah. So that's a good question, right? And I actually had a position one time when I was able to, I had somebody interview me for a position, and months went by, crickets, nothing to hear from them. And all of a sudden got a call from her a few months later, literally months. And she said, hey, I really liked you in the interview. And, I'm going to another company. Would you like to have my job? I was like, what's your job? She's like, oh, I'm lead recruiter here at this company and whatever. And mind you, I was applying for an engineering position, which was hilarious. So long story short, I got that job, and I was all of a sudden lead recruiter with an army of like 20 recruiters out of India. And it was just nuts. There was a company that contracts, that puts out contractors out there. And from my perspective, what I noticed is I had to vet like hundreds of applicants that all looked just like me on paper. You know what I mean? So it's like, how did these guys stand out? I interviewed all of them. I ranked them. And I'll tell you who got the offer. Whoever was most persistent in my inbox. So I don't know what's right or wrong. I don't have a right or wrong answer for you. But what I realized at the end of the day, that these recruiters and these bosses, they're human beings just like the rest of us. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. And then you think about it, if you empathize and put yourself in their shoes, do I reply on the same email thread like you said earlier? Well, I don't know. I mean, knowing how Outlook works, if you create a new subject line and create a new email thread, that's a whole different thing that doesn't get lost. Outlook is notorious now for grouping conversations into a single, loss of abyss. So if you send unique emails, unique messages, unique subject lines, if there's anything that you did in the interview that made you stand out, maybe you had a good conversation about the Notre Dame football team or something like this, go mention that, in your inquiry. Every single email you send to them, always attach your resume every single time. I know I already sent it, but just in case, don't even say you're attaching it. It's obvious. They're going to see it's there. Add a site, top of site, top of mind. Mm-hmm. You do that every Monday when they go into the office at 7 a.m. Boom, you're in their inbox. Next Monday, boom, you're in their inbox. Congratulating them on a great weekend from their alma mater football team or whatever. Anything you can do to stand out, they will remember. They see you, the persistence, all that jazz. There's different strategies for hiring managers versus recruiters. So I'm talking about try to get to the next step, because we're, back to my example, I was vetting 200 candidates, and and I just needed to get somebody who I know, if I call right then, they're on the phone, I know they're still available. Well, if you just email me this morning, I know you're still available. I don't even have to call you and say, first question, hey, are you still available? No, I know you're still available because you just emailed me. So that's where I stand on that subject. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. That's great insight. And there's a saying that goes, "The squeaky wheel gets the grease." So, squeaky wheel gets the grease. To Paul Montoya's point, right? And to my point, if you are, I would say be respectful. Don't send it 2 days later after you sent the thank you email. But obviously, wait 5 to 7 days, and Lourdes and Diego also provided their perspective. Ultimately, it's up to you as the candidate, as the individual, right? If you really feel like, man, I really want to work for this particular company, show them how much you really want to work for this particular company. And to Paul's point, talk about what you maybe missed mentioning in that email about the company. Talk about maybe, hey, I saw your company in the news, and this is what I learned about this particular new project that you're doing or new contract that came up. And do that consistently. And once again, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but obviously do it tactfully. Obviously, don't do it every single day. Wait 5 to 7 days if that's something that you want to be persistent about. However, if you don't really feel like, okay, maybe this company is not really my cup of tea, but if you're saying, I really just want a job, whatever it is that I can get, maybe that's not the right tactic. But if it's a company that you really want to work for, it's up to you to make those decisions and follow through on those. Mr. Mike Cruz, any thoughts in regards to Bond's question?
Yeah. Yeah, you really get me thinking. I really enjoy all your inputs, guys. It gets me thinking about the interview process. I think there's a couple of things that you need to remind yourself when you're preparing for the interview, is to prepare for the interview itself, like you've been talking about, knowing the company and do that strategy. The second point, which I think you've really been talking about, is your exit strategy. Did you develop an exit strategy before you went into the interview? And if you did, what did you do? What did you write down? Did you say, okay, I need to make sure I know everybody? And part of my exit strategy is that I leave myself open to a follow-up with these people. Did we talk about it? Say, this is the interview's over. Your last question is, would you allow me to contact you within the next week or so, and thank you for this, and provide an opportunity to contact those people again, and at least get a head shake. Maybe they might say, yeah, we'll see, but the real thing is, like Paul just brought the fact, if that company wants you, they're probably going to contact you back real quick and say, hey, you know what, we really want to do it. If they haven't contacted you within 5 days or 6 days, a couple of things can happen. They're busy. Okay, it's time to get around. Or, you're not on the top 10 list. Mm-hmm. And even though you reply, then hopefully you can get a response that says, we've already filled the position, da-da-da-da-da-da. When I was recruiting for the government and doing, we hardly did any face-to-face interviews, all paper and a panel structure. But we still had a call. If you had 10 people that applied for a job, the lead person got to call the person, said, give the job offer. And then the other person had to tell the other 4 or 5 people, no, you didn't make it. and that's kind of hard to do. But and I don't know if they do that anymore. If the company will say, hey, we filled the billet, it's closed or whatever. Is there an end to the interview that you've done? You may want to pose that question as you leave. A part of your exit strategy, you need to write down the things you want to do, contact information, any last questions, and then the follow-up process that you would expect them to go by. And they may tell you, they may say, okay, we'll get back with you hopefully within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And if we fill the position, we'll let you know that it's been filled. It's been selected. So I think the big thing out of this conversation, Lazaro, is plan your exit strategy while you plan your interview. Okay, you can plan your interview. You've done all your research, but then think about the future. Think about the next step, and that's the exit strategy of following up and see what happens. And then after you followed up, you still have the question: do you accept the position? We have some. I've worked with some young people where they were, oh, I don't know if I need to accept this one because I had 3 or 4 interviews. I got 2 job offers, and now which one do I want to accept? So the interview will get you there. The exit strategy will present some new issues, possibly, especially when you have multiple offers and you have to make a decision. Now you have a whole new process that you need to go through. But your interview went well. Your follow-up process went well. You got the offers, and now the decision is, if I got multiple offers, what do I do? So life is not easy. You assume you can put in for a job and get it right away and go work, and other times you may have to make some heavy decisions. But the bottom line is, develop your exit strategy for the interview, follow up. And what conditions can I do the follow up with? Can I contact you, email you, whatever? So think about that. Lazaro, is there a format that somebody can follow for an exit strategy follow up? I mean, this is a good topic. I mean, is there something written on that? I'm pretty sure something's written up on that maybe people can take away.
I personally have not seen a formal exit strategy written down that students or young professionals can follow once they are preparing for their interview process, right? However, I don't know if anybody else on the call has seen a formal exit strategy in the past. I know that we all have shared our perspective, but is there something formal that you have seen and possibly utilized? Lourdes, Diego, Paul, maybe Alex, Polo, have you seen an exit strategy from interview? And it's okay if you haven't. Okay. Yeah. Alex?
Yeah, no, I can't ever say I've ever seen one. So, yeah, this topic is kind of like Mike said, it's very interesting because I've never really thought about it.
Right?
Yeah.
I see Lourdes has her hand up. Lourdes?
Yeah, not an exact format, but I would say have some questions ready to go when the company is like, do you have any questions for us? That's where you can showcase your interest and also ask them about the timeline, like Mike said.
Okay.
Yeah. Lourdes, that's part of the exit strategy. I think what I'm looking for is a comprehensive exit strategy package from, asking the final questions in the interview, weeks after the interview, follow up, and then actually making an acceptance of an offer. That all goes after the interview. So it'd be Lazaro, you need to plan a presentation on that to take you from the interview to the closing discussions on the interview, the follow up process, the day's time, and then maybe a timeline to up to I got the offer, and then if you have multiple offers, what do you do? I mean, that's a whole scenario that really would be helpful to young students because it makes them think about after. I think most students think about, I just got to get the interview, got to get this job, but they don't think about the consequences of the interview, and it could be many.
Yeah, thank you. No, that's a great point, sir. Bond, does this answer your questions or does it create more questions on your side?
I feel like it answered it pretty well. It was very insightful, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that maybe we can help you with in that regard to Mr. Mike Cruz's exit strategy that he just pointed out?
Not that I can think of at the moment. I think you guys did a really good job of answering it.
Okay, okay. So with that, with that being said, when going back to Mr. Mike Cruz's perspective on the exit strategy, when you follow up, when everything goes well, when you already know about the company, and there's got to be a time when you have to, as a candidate, accept that maybe I did not get accepted, right? Maybe I have to move on, and that's fine. But you have to realize this, right? So going back to Lourdes and Diego's point, you don't want to be a pest. You don't want to be so persistent that all of a sudden they kind of block you, because the recruiters will block you if you apply blindly to more than 10, 15, 20 positions in a short period of time. You have to be aggressive to some extent, but at the same time, you can't just blast out and just utilize the application website consistently to any position that opens up. I see, Paul, you have your hand up, sir. Paul.
Yeah. So so that what you just mentioned is actually a good point. So a lot of these, how do you navigate left, right? What do you do? It actually depends on the company, and that what you just mentioned, not spamming multiple roles and all that jazz. That's actually a good question for the recruiter. Go, hey, is your, hey, I actually saw more than one rec I'm interested in. My focus is this one I'm talking to you now, but I'm curious, if I applied for another position, does that go to a group of recruiters? Do you guys manage multiple roles? Does it go right to the unique hiring manager? Because in the scenario that it goes right to the hiring manager, I actually usually they would say and recommend that actually go ahead and apply to everything you think, because the recruiter, we just, once you've been screened, or maybe there's not even a recruit in the process, maybe the recruiter gets involved after the hiring manager says, yeah, I want to talk to this person. So I believe it was like that at IBM and a couple of some of these other ones, that when you apply for a job, it actually goes straight to the inbox of the hiring manager. But that's definitely a question you want to clarify to determine your strategy. And the other thing I was going to mention is, a lot of times I just attack with the confidence. I mean, if you're new to the market, you just got your engineering degree, you did a good job, you did what you're supposed to do. Maybe you got an internship out of the gate, maybe you didn't. But at the end of the day, you got to have that confidence. You know what I mean? It's not, are you going to be successful? You are going to be successful. If you get multiple job offers, then tell them, go, hey, I really like this position I applied to, but I'm getting pressure. I'm getting pressured from this other job to make a decision. I really want to give you guys a chance. What's the timeline here? You kind of have to tread lightly, but there is a way you have that conversation. You get a lot of these companies like Apple and Meta, Google. You can believe that if you're one of those individuals that are being sought against, you actually fall into a different bucket, and if they have a formal process on that, the recruiters usually ask you, do you have any do you have any other job offers we need to know about? Because if you say yes, they put you in a more priority bucket. Oh, this person was being sought after. We need to move on this person fast, or we're going to lose the opportunity. You know what I mean? But remember, confidence. You know what I mean? They need us more than we need them. You know what I mean? If we don't work, we'll just start our own business and live happily ever after.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We're engineers. Yeah.
Yeah. To Paul's point, if you show that confidence, it's really on you. That confidence gets detected, picked up, and the companies actually, really want you to be part of their team. But then you have to perform. The other thing is, obviously don't lie about what you have and what you don't have. So I'm gonna explore two different paths here, right? Worst case scenario, you graduate, you didn't really have an internship when you were going to school, your GPA is below a 3.0, and you're having a difficult time finding a job, right? It's gonna be really hard, and what I've seen, this is my personal experience and perspective on how long it takes to actually get traction and get a position, right? It's going to take you between 6 to 8 months. Right now, because of the market, that's normally what it will take, especially when the recruiters are churning, going through resumes, going through interviews, is going to take you between 6 to 8 months. Now, the other portion or the other side of the coin, if you went through and got internships as a university college student, you have 1 or 2 in your belt. You also have been diligent going to networking sessions, having your resume reviewed by several people, implementing the comments, shaking hands, going to in-person events. You will graduate essentially with a job in your hand. So that's normally how it happens. Let's assume, worst case scenario, there's layoffs that happen, right? All of a sudden, you're the new guy, you're the new person, you get cut. Well, sad for you, it's a reality, but at the end of the day, because you did make those connections and you networked, you can be confident that you can put a resume out there. And because you have experience, you have worked in the industry, you have those internships under your belt, you will get a job between 4 to 6 months, which is much faster than the other candidate or other scenario that I explained earlier. So it is up to you, going back to Paul Montoya's point, to hustle and deal and go ahead and be in front of people's faces outside of work, within work, and make sure that it is up to you to be driving your career. It is not just sit in your desk, put your head down, and let your work speak for itself. You have to publish and publicize yourself and the things that you're doing inside the company, but also outside the company for other individuals that are working at other corporations to be able to see you and to vouch for you as an individual, as a human being. That's my perspective. I don't know if Alex Polo, if you have any additional inside perspective, and then we'll go around the room to see if they can also share some insight.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on the subject of networking, and that's my best advice I could give people. I mean, I've been going to like a couple of the ship events at UCSD and all that, and recently I met somebody that they're graduating this year as an aerospace engineer, and then they told me, "Oh, I didn't even know this existed, ship." So that was their first event they ever went to, and they're already going to graduate. So what I told them is, yeah, you need to go to more of these networking events and get yourself out there, be known by people, what you want to do. I told her I'm not an aerospace engineer, unfortunately, but I can try to see if my network has anybody that's looking for somebody. So, but also I put it on her that she needs to do the networking as well and go to the events. So I mean, I hate to say this, but sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. And I think that's an important aspect as well.
Thank you, Alex. Great insight. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know, but more importantly, who knows you and who can definitely vouch for you in that regard behind closed doors, right?
Yep.
Mr. Mike Cruz, you have your hand up?
Yeah, this discussion has get me thinking again. I guess I do too much thinking at time. But after the interview, I think there's two scenarios, and one we kind of haven't touched on. One is the student interview, looking for a job, and the other one is a professional doing an interview, seeking new employment, like you said. And most of the young people today, as you know, 3 to 5 years is what a young engineer now stays in place to the first company. 3 to 5 years, then they're looking at good. So they need to do another interview. They're looking for a job. So I think the strategy should be generally the same. But now that you're a working professional, you got some experience underneath your belt. Are there any different expectations that you would see that would come up? I mean, your experience now has your resume now has experience on it.
Yeah.
You have a company that you work for or whatever. And then you're going to have people vouch for you, write you a supporting letter, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the interview would be a little bit different, but the expectation is it still the same for the exit strategy? Is to follow up, follow up, follow up?
So my personal experience and take on that, and then I'll go over to Lourdes because I believe she has some experience in this regard. When you go from one company to another, and this is just a transition, is not because you were laid off. They will ask you, why are you leaving your why are you leaving your current employer? They'll ask you that, so be aware of why and how you answer that question. That question is tricky because they're trying to figure out, is this a good candidate? And how, if they want to leave us, will they respond when their time comes for the other company to ask that same question of us, right? So make sure that you say, I'm looking for additional growth. I'm looking, or whatever it is that you want to do. If it is about money, don't make it seem like you're greedy, but explain what your situation is, right? And make sure that along with that increase in salary, you probably say the product of the company and expand on the product of the company, and make sure that you explain and you know what the company actually does. Maybe throw in some of the stock market information in there. Also talk about the different sectors or divisions that you know about the company. Know exactly which sector you're applying for that particular company. So they will ask you that. One thing that they will also do, can you share 3 or 4 references that can write a letter of recommendation for you? Nowadays, it's not an actual letter that they have to submit on paper. They will get your references. You will put their email address on a website and their phone number, and they will get contacted via email. And those references will not necessarily write a letter. They'll answer a survey, which will rank you as an individual on different categories. It depends on what the company's managing or doing at that point, right? There will be an additional comment section for anything additional that your references can also include. So make sure that you talk to your references before you put them down so that they can expect this type of email coming over to their email address that they provide you, that they consistently check, and call them, because it might go to their junk, scam, or whatever email trash bin that they have. And if they don't receive it, let them tell you, hey, I didn't see it. I'm supposed to get it maybe this week. I haven't seen it. Because once you put that information on the website, it'll get to them within 24 to 48 hours. So make sure you follow through on that regard. So Lourdes, does that kind of follow suit with what you've experienced as a professional transitioning from one company to another? Is there any differences that you want to highlight that a new hire versus a young professional trying to shift over into a different company that you want to bring up? Lourdes?
No, you pretty much cover it. I would like to emphasize that you need to have a good answer for when they ask you why you're leaving, and you have to do it in a respectful tone. Even if the other company did you dirty, you cannot say that. You have to say it in a respectful tone just in case, you want to keep both bridges open, and just in case you need to jump back ship or something. Just be respectful on all fronts, because you never know who knows anybody over there, and it can get back to that company really quickly. So just be mindful.
Yeah. Thank you, Lourdes. Thank you. Great insight. And then maybe Paul Montoya, if you have any additional insight transitioning from one company to another, and what could be a little bit different.
Yeah. So again, no right or wrong answer. So, but I know what not to say, right? Jerry Maguire, show me the money. My boss sucked. That's why I got to get out of here. You need to be my lifeboat, right? It's pretty easy to laugh at what not to say, but you would be surprised
Yeah.
with these recruiters here
Yeah.
from people that should know better. You know what I mean? So just for nothing but to break the ice, so you just tell the truth. At the end of the day, you tell the truth. You're just honest, authentic. Like right now, that question was asked for me because I'm trying to get back into W-2 status. Why do you want to leave your current employer? It's because I'm a contractor, and by definition, contractors are temporary. So I got a pretty easy answer for that right now. But if I was, but if but earlier in my career where I was trying to, hey, you want to increase your salary by 50% and go over there, it's like, wow, that's a nice deal. Why do you want to leave your job? It's because I know this job pays 50% more or something, but it's not always chasing. Looking back, a lot of people say that you have to transition companies to to increase your salary or what not have you every 3 to 5 years. Get that 50% bump and work that corporate ladder. But I envy the people that got the opportunity. Like I know buddies of mine from high school that have been working at Raytheon for like 30, their entire career. And in the same breath, I got other buddies, your whole career at Intel and recently laid off. You know what I mean? And so, uh, so I could, not trying to stay positive. But honestly, you could tell them, one is too close to zero. So, if you were confident and you were happy with your current job, you could just straight up tell them, actually, I'm not looking. I've been in my career, my job, 3+ years. I'm actually not looking, but I am always curious and open to possibilities. So it's actually your job to to sell me on your company because, you know what I mean. There's companies that I strive to work for, and there's companies that I just throw them in the people pile companies. And so, for example. When I was at Dell, I really analyzed Raytheon and all FSIs for that matter, and I found this really respect. Every time I met an engineer working for these companies, first thing I said is, "Thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you for working with this company," because certain companies like Raytheon and General Dynamics and what have you, and even your company, right, Northrop Grumman, you're doing it for if your companies didn't exist, we would not have a defense against bad actors. And people that want to kill us with a flash of light, ballistic missiles. And so I always thank the Raytheon engineers for doing those radar systems, for all these different things that help protect the continental United States. In the same breath, there was a time when I worked for a credit card company, did their storage system. And I go, hey, this is going to cure cancer, right? What I just did for you. I felt like I did a good job. They're like, nope, nope. Those credit card offers you get in the mail? That's this application. I'm like, oh, no. Right. So you got to, go in there, know what the company does, know if you want to fight for them and if you want to put your best foot forward, and know if you're there just because of the industry. Hey, I'm here because Amazon just laid off 40,000 people, because every Fortune 100 is, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's that, is that we're becoming more efficient. AI is making us more efficient. There's always room at the top. There is always room at the top. So you go into this career with confidence. You know what I mean? Network as much as you can. Anybody that's on this call or listen to these calls, you're doing your part right there. So kudos, to always keeping these Wednesdays. These are very entertaining stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Great perspective, great insight. We're gonna go around the room. Any final thoughts or additional insights that anybody wants to share? Mr. Mike Cruz, we'll start with you.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Oh, there we are. There we go. I hit the wrong thing. Well, this whole discussion about the interview and what do you do next? I think we really need to think about. You need to think about working with somebody to maybe formalize a whole exit strategy for interviews for both professionals and students, because I don't think we think far enough in advance. We're just looking for the job in the beginning. That's true, and then you're looking for advancement. My career spanned 35 years working for the Navy as a federal employee. The reason I stayed in my job is because I had the opportunity to grow. I got training every year. I got exposed to new technologies. The work was interesting. I was in a laboratory environment, so I didn't have to worry about other people and and da 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 da. So no, this is certainly a topic that needs some more exploitation, and I'm pretty sure there's probably some data that is out there, but it's probably piecemeal. Exit strategy. What do I do after the job, and how do I deal with a new employer and all that stuff. And my thought was when I saw the topic of what do you do after the interview, I was thinking about, okay, you got the interview, and now you got the job. And when you get the job, there's a whole new cadre of questions and things that you need to go with. But I think for our young professionals and students here, they need to think, have that exit strategy in your mind the next time you do an interview or looking for a job, and kind of look. And that as part of the planning is the 5 and 10 year planning strategy. If you got that in mind, then the interview exit strategy will fit within that. So, yeah, it's Paul, like Paul said, there's no good answer for this one. There's going to be some extenuating circumstances for sure, and the other ones might go real quickly. Interview, accept a job offer, get a job, you like it, and you stay. And the other ones, you're only going to stay for 3. Generally, I think the rule now is 3 to 5 years for most young engineers.
That's what I've seen.
And I think when we talk with them, it is about money. It is about growth, because you got to pay the rent, and look at the car prices, how they've got up, and the home prices how they got up. So yeah, money is an issue, and be tactful with it. You say, look at it. I need, I need to increase my salary because my rent has gone up or my house payment has gone up, and I need to deal with that. So like Paul says, you got to be truthful, be honest about your aspirations, and if money is an issue, explain it. I think it's on the table, so it's not one you should avoid. Attack it on with truth and reason. The other one is finding new horizons. I want a different career. I want to do something different, better. Cure the world, like Paul. Yeah. We want to find a cure for cancer, but
Right.
We're all not going to get that job. We're going to get the credit card job, asking people for more money, et cetera, et cetera. So, no, good discussion today. We can take this further, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. Thank you, sir. We're going over to Lourdes. Any additional insight perspectives that you want to share?
No, just thank you for the thoughts and the questions today.
Awesome. Thank you. Diego, any additional thoughts, questions, insights?
Just like Mike Cruz, I'm also always thinking. So I realized that, this discussion, can also work, for individuals like myself who are looking to move teams internally within a company. Because, the current team I'm on, I'm definitely not going to stay in it for the rest of my career. I don't want to stay in it for the rest of my career. But, I wouldn't be surprised that, within the company I work for, if I transition teams, I'm still going to have to do an internal interview. And I wouldn't be surprised if that manager asked me, hey, SDT, sounds like a really good place to learn, why are you leaving? And then at that point, that's when I would have, my exit strategy in mind. And I would say, oh, well, I had a great time in SDT, but I'm leaving because of A, B, and C, and because I want A, B, and C for my future career plans. So that's a little snippet of what I kind of thought about in my head. So yeah. So anyways, that being said, thank you very much for this discussion. Even though I have a job, I still learned a lot.
Thank you, Diego. Great insight, great perspective. Alex Polo, any additional insights, comments?
I think this could be a topic for a future session, but as far as like references, make sure you pick the right references, even if there are people that are going to talk good things about you. Like I had one experience. I mean, this guy was good. We got on well. He said great things about me, but when we worked together, he got let go of the company, so he didn't even know why I was why I left the company. And when they asked him, "Do you know why he left?" He started saying, "Oh, they must have effed with him." And so he was putting his own experience in there. Right? So, I'm like, "Oh man!" So he let me know that he said that to them, and right away I called the company. And I'm like, "No, hold on." I explained to him what happened. So anyway, yeah, could be a topic for.
That's a good insight. Yeah, and we'll definitely bring that up in another topic in another session. Thank you. Paul Montoya, any additional thoughts, insights?
No, just never burn your bridges. You might need them again. Yeah.
That's for sure. Never burn your bridges, right? Vaughn, any additional questions or concerns or insights?
I don't believe so. I just want to thank everyone for being so insightful. It was incredibly valuable.
Thank you. And with that, thank you so much. We'll definitely see you next Wednesday. Thank you for joining Cafecito Chats. Hasta luego. Bye bye.